You guys for coming out. Wow, I feel so energized. This is the 12th city I've joined as part of the activation tour. So I've been traveling across the East Coast. I wasn't there for the first leg, but I'm here for the second leg. And it's nice to get out from behind a computer and see people in person. And we did some really great work today. And that's what I'm going to talk about, how to continue this great work going, how to solve the world's problems through tech. So before I get to that, I'll tell you a little bit about me. I'm Ramiro Romani. In 2019, I met Derek Bros at a Freedom Cell meeting, not unlike this one, right? Just people meeting in person talking about solutions. And he was like, yeah, we need some help from the website. I told him I was a software engineer, and that was that. And I've been working with that for 2 years. We worked together on the Greater Reset conference, greaterreset.org. And the first time we did that, we kind of just, didn't know what to expect. Well, we saw that 150,000 people actually tuned in to get solutions. And I think it marked the first time that people, instead of theorizing and complaining about the problems, started actually looking to see what we could do about them. So with all that said, now more recently, I've gotten to be a part of Freedom Cells. I've watched it grow from under 5,000 members to 27,000 people. And it's really cool for me because sometimes I get disconnected from like what actually goes on the site, but it's so decentralized, right? There's these groups, there's these chats that we don't even know about. There's people meeting in person. And so getting to be part of this activation tour has really showed me how they organize. So I guess I have a story to tell first about people our friends in Philadelphia who met each other through freedomcells.org because they were having such a hard time finding people in person, right? They weren't necessarily getting along with their family. They could not agree. They could not see eye to eye, and they did not have an out. So they felt kind of stuck. So it took chatting through freedomcells.org and then also a local Telegram group for the Freedom Cells to get them to come together. They traveled for hours. They traveled 4 hours to meet each other the very first times, and they sat down, they built those relationships, they made excuses to see each other. They had a road trip, and now they are actually living off-grid on a property that just kind of landed in their lap. So for me, that's a success story, right? That's kind of like an ideal place to be, is if you're aware of all the problems that is coming. What it takes is intention. You need to show up. You need to join these new digital spaces. And so I'm going to be talking about that today. So with these solutions, I just want to mention that the bar is low. The bar is low. We have such a great part to play in this. We have things that we need to learn. For instance, we've got geoengineering in our skies. Just take a look up there and see what we got going on. They did a nice little cross-section over today. What the fuck is happening? And what are we going to do about it? Is there a realistic way to do about it? Well, I invite you. Let's figure this out. Can we use Organite? Can we use Cloudbusters to clear this out of the sky, right? How do we get this information that seems to be lost to us? How do we take back the pollution from the skies, the lack of nutrition in our food, the absurdity of the health system, right? How do we, internally, organically, without needing a degree, without going to school, how do we fix these problems and not have to rely on a centralized source, which is obviously not helping anything. In fact, their solutions seem to be hurting. So that's the first pillar of these creative systems where we get to decide how we're going to treat these problems. Luckily, we live in a day and age where all information is accessible through the internet. And so the first piece of advice I have for you is to find the information you need, whether you are going to be a master permaculture artist, or you're going to be taking care of animals, or you're going to be a master builder. So here's how to find that information. I use this one website. You can write it down if you want. It's called pdfdrive.com, and you can find any books you want on there. I don't know how they get around copyright, but it doesn't really matter. Pull those books down and research to your heart's content. Now there's another thing, right? So what are you trying to aim towards? Well, for me, I wanted to have a baseline of knowledge in case the world ever ended and I didn't have access to internet anymore. That would suck. So I built a scraper to download 200 gigabytes of books. This is like tens and thousands of books on anything from archery to raising Jersey cows to creating water systems. And I got them all on PDFs, put them on a USB. don't. So like, why? Well, because I want to have this knowledge and not depend on it. And these books are all from the 1700s to the 1900s. They're not modern, but I know that if things ever hit the fan, which I see there are, we're going to have that knowledge in our back pocket. So this combined with an EMF-proof enclosure, a USB, and a laptop, along with a solar-powered battery charger, will ensure that we're always going to have the knowledge we need to rebuild, no matter what that looks like, right? So that's kind of the first pillar of these creative systems. We got to figure out our piece of the puzzle. We're facing mass unemployment right now. A lot of people, including my friends, are not going to have jobs by the end of this month. So what do? Well, we create jobs for ourselves. It's really that simple. Okay, so the second pillar is learning how to operate with a degree of security and privacy. And privacy is freedom. Why? Because we're doing courageous things. We are speaking out. We are aiming to have solutions. Unfortunately, the current establishment does not agree when the solution goes against their agenda. So, you get casted out, you get fined, you get demonized. So, in our circles, it's as if someone is fighting for freedom in the forest and no one hears it, is it really even noticeable? So what I'm trying to get with that metaphor is we need to be private, we need to protect ourselves, right? We need to be more conscious about who we bring into our circles when we solve these problems. After all, it takes courage. So to do that, we need to strip away the easy routes for surveillance that already exist in today's modern day infrastructure, right? So what am I talking about? I'm talking about our laptops and our phones. Those are two really big threats to our privacy. And so this year I started Take Back Our Tech. TakeBackOurTech.org is our website, and that's my full-time job, is to write about ways we can still be as functional as we're used to in this modern world while having privacy. And so our first mission was to get Linux, the operating system, of as many computers as possible. Raise your hand if you have heard of Linux before. Okay, awesome. Now raise your hand if you use Windows or Mac OS still. Okay, well here's the crappy part, is in our research we found that there is nothing you can do to your Windows or Mac computer that will strip out the surveillance from it, right? Every time you open a program on Mac OS, you're going to get a unique identifier for that program and also for your laptop, sent over the internet back to Apple servers. This is not even encrypted, so anyone, your internet service provider can see it, your router can see it, anyone on your network can see it. And it's just crazy that this is ingrained and built in, and there's actually nothing you can do to change it. They recently disabled one of the programs you could use to stop this. So what I'm trying to say is that our computers aren't ours. Technology is not ours if you choose to use the technology that comes bundled with it, right? When you go to the store, you get Windows, you get Mac OS, those are your two choices, illusion of choice. And if you decide you want something more free and more private, you have to go install it yourself. And that's the trick here, right? It's the convenience trap. So this year we have had dozens of people migrate to Linux as part of our channels. It's so easy. I invite you to go to TakeBackOurTech.org. There's an article there called Installing Linux from Scratch to Save the World. And you can get Linux on your computer within 2 hours. All you need is a USB. Is anyone here using Linux? Can I raise his hand? Raise his hands high. Please look around. Please look around. These people are going to be the ones that have the answers to your question. They're going to be able to support you. There's plenty of articles on the website as well. It's like the installation process, what you do when you actually get on, how to replace the programs you're used to using. So that's Linux. It's incredibly friendly. It doesn't bother you about updates. You have freedom to work with the programs you want to use. Everything is free. Everything is free. You realize we pay like $100 to Microsoft for like a Windows license key to use it, and it spies on us? The balls, like why, right? And so it's like there's an obvious holistic answer to this. So I feel like software, much like food, or much like a plant, you can pass on from person to person. It will self-replicate, and you can use it to provide you abundance. You can use it to build you fruit, grow fruit. Okay, so that's my spiel on Linux. I invite you to check it out. That's the first takeaway. And the second takeaway is our phones. Now, some of you might have seen my interview with Ryan. Shout out to him, because we had an amazing conversation about the new privacy phone solution I've been working on. And so these are revolutionary new technologies that came out recently, or got to a point where they're so functional they're usable. And so these are two de-Googled operating systems, and what they do is they remove the operating system level tracking from your phone. So what am I saying? I'm saying that when you use a Google phone, like an Android or a iOS phone, every 5 minutes your phone is connecting back to their servers. So it is tracking unique identifiers for your phone's hardware, for your SIM card, and they're doing really worrisome stuff too that, you know, doesn't really make sense why they would collect some of this information. So for instance, when you turn on location services on your iPhone, if you're connected to your home Wi-Fi network, it also sends the local MAC addresses of the other devices on your network along with the longitude and latitude of your phone. So it's like, okay, why do they need to collect information about the other devices? And you realize they're trying to build a map of the world and all the devices we're in. I guess they do that and Google doesn't do that because Google already has Google Maps and they've gone around and scanned all the access points. But my point is here is that they're definitely trying to profit off your data. And if we are to believe the Snowden leaks with Prism and Apple being a partner in the Prism project, then they're pretty much just channeling that up to intelligence agencies, right? And I'll talk a little bit more about this, but the mobile ecosystem is fucked, right? Long and short of it. So there's the stuff that happens at the operating system level. It's estimated from the study that took place in Ireland in March of 2021 that estimates that for all the American users, which is like a few 100 million American users, every 12 hours, 1 terabyte of data from all these phones gets sent to Google, and about 5 gigabytes, which is 20 times less, to Apple. And so that is like the base layer, right? So using these de-Googled operating systems like the above phone offers strips out that layer, but there's another layer on top. There's the mobile applications we use, and so there was a study as well called it was called Trackers, which this is on takebackourtech.org, where it saw that on average there was 5 invisible advertising and tracking services on every mobile app. So it's like our tech ecosystem. Any application we download off the Google Play Store is silently tracking how you interact with things, what you type in, and that data is where are these analytics and tracking services coming from? Well, this study actually looked to see what companies were behind it, and 16 of the 20 biggest companies were owned by who? You can guess. It's Alphabet. Alphabet, right? So the same people who are tracking the operating systems are also tracking the apps within it, right? So that gives you a really, if this data is really flowing to the same place, well, that implies that they have a very good idea of your personality and a graph of all your associated data, right? Not just what you do to the operating system and what you're walking around with, but what you do in these apps. So that's really, really scary to know that the biggest military tech contractor is getting all of that information. Apple is not any better. There's no control of these devices. We should be concerned because now these companies are coming together to collaborate on projects like the COVID contact tracing, right? That was a big thing that they both collaborated on to create a consistent standard that could do that. So the question is, why the hell would we incriminate ourselves according to their unjust laws and participate in these systems as they become more and more integrated? They've already integrated vax passports in both operating systems. So that's why we're spreading awareness about de-Googled phones and these private operating systems. Our company, Above Phone, sells versions of these operating systems on our phones, but if you would like to learn how to install it on your phone, I invite you to look at these 2 technologies. Feel free to write it down. One is called Graphene OS. Yes, graphene, the nanomaterial that comes from pencils, nothing else. And the other is Calyx OS, C-A-L-Y-X. So we covered our computers, we covered our phones, so that's good. We're securing the connections between us. And now we could also talk about chatting with each other, right? In this same article I did, which was called Who Can We Call On, by the way, we also looked at how our cellular services are tracking us, and how things like this program called Hemisphere, which was funded by the White House and also ran by the DEA, was getting around 40 billion call detail records. So the point is here is that unfortunately, our cellular service providers like AT&T pass this data off to intelligence agencies, and all of this stuff is searchable without warrants. It works on administrative subpoenas, which means it doesn't have to go in front of a judge. This is one secret program, like serendipitously was revealed to us, kind of on accident. There could be more, but essentially, if you look at these cellular service providers' own data retention policies, they're super vague. So they'll keep your call detail records from anywhere from like 6 months to indefinitely. Calls and text messages cannot be trusted. Calls and text messages cannot be trusted. Unfortunately, we are trusting these cellular service providers to encrypt and decrypt those communications. They're absolutely tracking it. They don't even try to hide it. And now we're seeing that not only are they surveilling us, but the potential for control is there. So earlier this year in June in Punjab, Pakistan, they disabled the cell service for all unvaccinated citizens. What do you think happened then? Well, there's this video of this dude checking out the line to get vaccinated after this happened, and he's driving at like 50 miles an hour. This video is 10 minutes long of all these people lined up to get it. This is realistically going to happen. So I ask you, are you prepared for this? Are you prepared to go without cell service? And it's kind of scary for some. Who knows when it's going to happen, if it's going to happen. But just the potential exists. And so we have to be ready to move to solutions. And so that's what the above phone is about. And one of these solutions is called XMPP. XMPP, which stands for Extensible Messaging Presence Protocol. Messaging and Presence Protocol, which is a 20-year-old technology that the likes of companies like Google and Facebook have built on top of, but they never tell you about the underlying technology because it's free and there's no way to make money off it. So in the future, I foresee communities running their own XMPP servers to communicate with each other, and it's really amazing because it replaces all of the features you would need that you're used to on Telegram, right? We use Telegram today. Luckily, a lot of us haven't not been banned off Telegram, but we still are putting a lot of trust in Telegram to encrypt and decrypt our messages. They have all of our information. We shouldn't treat Telegram like it's like super secure or private or anything. XMPP, however, is truly decentralized, so you can run the server yourself. It's end-to-end encrypted, and you can make video and voice calls. So again, this is something I see for the future. Maybe we get unlucky and we're not able to use cell service. People aren't going to be using phone numbers anymore in the future. Hopefully the smart ones, people who are looking for alternatives will be using XMPP, so they're going to use something that looks like an email to call each other through their phones. All of this software is free and open source, which means that you can look at the source code, you can see that no spying is going on. If spying is going on, then the project will simply fork itself and work on a more private version, which is what's been happening. Okay, so now we covered laptops, phones. Okay, cool. So we got our security, we got our knowledge in the first section. Now let's talk about expansion. You guys already know about expansion. We were doing it today. We were doing it today in the form of activism, going out and meeting people in person. And this is another prediction I have, is that it's going to be even harder to reach people through big tech platforms like Facebook and Twitter. The algorithms are going to continue to tighten around the truth because they don't want anyone to hear it. So let's not play on their playing field, right? Let's not fight on their turf. We got to take these interactions back into person, just like what we were doing today. And we saw a lot of people interested in it. One amazing way you can do this is through the use of sticker and print media. Has anyone heard of the White Rose? Awesome, yeah, a few of you. So the White Rose is this amazing decentralized activist organization. There are no main representatives that speak for it, but all they do is they design powerful messaging and symbolism that can be printed out on 4-inch stickers. And what they've done is they've covered Europe with these stickers and raised mass consciousness and awareness about the tyranny that's been happening with COVID. And I'd like to credit it as one of the reasons we're seeing these huge protests in these other countries today. So how do they do that? They printed stickers. The White Rose is going to be speaking at the Greater Reset, number 3, by the way, in January, so definitely keep following that, thegreaterreset.org. And what the White Rose recommends is to buy this printer which I'll name right now. It's called the Brother Q100 series. So, it's Brother Q200, Q300, 500, 600, and you can use these with thermal paper to print out stickers. You don't need ink, and you can just print out a mass of it. So I'm not saying to use these printers to print COVID messaging. I'm actually saying that use it for yourself. Use it for your own business. Do you have a holistic healing practice? You know, are you able to dig wells? Are you able to do carpentry? Are you able to do permaculture consulting? Well, create a website for yourself, you know. Create a Telegram group and then put a message and a symbol on one of these stickers and share it. Get your idea out in the open. Build these communities as you guys are already doing so well. So we covered stickers. We covered... There's one more thing I want to say is that, yeah, don't be afraid to share what you're working on. That's what I'm going to do right now. I invite you to join our mailing list at takebackourtech.org. We're working on some really revolutionary stuff. I just had an interview with really smart people in the United Kingdom. They are working on an open, decentralized radio communication protocol, so you can plug in this radio to your phone and you can send messages to anyone on this mesh network. And it's actually going to take people rebuilding our infrastructure, right? So maybe you're going to have a radio on your phone, but you're also going to need a repeater, maybe on that pole up there, that repeats the message out to the network. The range of these radios is anywhere from 5 to 20 miles. So it's going to take neighborhoods literally putting these towers down in order to have messaging that's completely off the grid. So these are all revolutionary projects that are coming out of the works. This is kind of my work to just keep in touch with them. We're going to be one of the first people in the United States that get to do the long-range tests. So that's really, really amazing. If you want to follow that, join the email list at takebackourtech.org. A lot of really awesome stuff coming up in the works. That is pretty much everything I have for you today. I'm really blessed to be here and get to hear y'all's stories. I am filled with hope going on this tour, seeing people just like you that are taking ownership, taking responsibility with what is going on. And I want to say that y'all have the power. We have the power. We can make real change. And now there's nothing left for us to go back to. So we just need to focus on building these perpendicular societies, right? They're not parallel. We are perpendicular because we are taking the best from the existing society and rolling it into our own. Thank you guys so much. Please remember, connection is sacred.
All right, thank you. Give it up for Ramiro.